Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk to you about all of the books I have bought recently and also the books that I have been sent for review. I have definitely been buying more books than usual recently, as you probably have noticed, but I have also been reading more books than usual recently, which is good. At the beginning of lockdown, I was finding reading a bit difficult, to be honest, or not the reading itself, but focusing on one particular book. I was jumping between so many different titles, I just couldn't really focus. But in July, I haven't counted how many books I read, but I think it's around about 25. So I read a lot last month. This is me clearly making excuses for why I've bought these books, which I do not need to do. So let me tell you about the books I've bought recently. I will list all of them in the description box down below if you would like to I don't know, go find out more. So the first one that not that I bought, but the first that is on this pile that is in no order at all is Heaven My Home by Attica Locke. This is the second in a crime series of hers that I started reading in July. So I'll speak about the first one in my wrap up soon. The first one is called Bluebird. The series protagonist is a black Texas Ranger called Darren Matthews. So in each book he is solving a crime, but we also of course come to know who he is and his family situations. And it's really interesting to see the racism in the crimes that he's helping solve, and also the racism within the police system as well, which is not something that is often discussed in crime books and is really, really important. The next book that I wanted to talk about is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I am so excited for this book. I think this was the first one out of all of these books that I bought. I haven't read anything by her before, but this just sounds delightful. It is set, or delightfully creepy. It's set in the 1950s. It is a horror novel. It is about a woman called, what is her name? Naomi, who she receives a frantic letter from her newlywed cousin saying that she needs help in this house. So she goes to this haunted house, I think, or this house where terrible things are happening, to try and help her cousin. A while ago, one of you asked me if I would do a video where I talk about books set in creepy houses, because that's a genre of books, a subgenre that you really enjoy. It's also one that I really enjoy, so I will read this and then I will make that video. The next book on this pile is Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabiri. I've heard amazing things about this, especially from Lauren over at Lauren in the Books. This is a series of essays. It's mainly memoir, and it's about racism in Ireland. It's about black hair. It's about appropriation of culture. It's about lots of different things. And as I said, I've heard nothing but good things. I've also heard nothing but good things about this book, which I really honestly don't know too much about. This is Priestdaddy by Patricia Lockwood. Anna James said that it's wonderful. Katie, who runs Storytellers Inc., where I buy a lot of my books, including this one, said that it's fantastic. This is a memoir. It says, her father is a gun-toting, guitar-riffing Catholic priest. Her mother sensed danger everywhere. This is Patricia Lockwood's raucous true story of identity, belonging, fancy, chalices, and a profoundly strange return to the family home. I've just heard that it's hilarious, so I'll let you know if I find it really funny. I bought The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey, and this is about a mermaid, and it's set in St. Constance, a tiny Caribbean village on the island of Black Conch in April 1976. It's about a fisherman who sings to himself, waiting for a catch, but attracts a sea dweller he does not expect. And the writing in this, you can see that some of it here is written in poetry, which I think, having not read it yet, but I think from scanning, is the voice of the mermaid. So that is one that I'm adding to the pile. I bought this, which is Unmute, Young Voices from Lockdown. And this is a self-published book by some of Kate's students. I have mentioned Kate many times on this channel. If you haven't read her book, England Poems from School, then do. She mentors a lot of young people and teaches them poetry, and she mainly teaches at the Oxford Spires Academy, and she teaches children of migrants and refugees, and the poetry that they write is just astounding. And during lockdown they have been writing a lot more poetry and have been sharing it online, so they decided to put it together into a book. So this, I'm sure, will be delightful. Then I have a few review copies. I have two sun let me move back a little bit. Come on, follow me out of the sunlight. refocus. I have a few review copies here. The first two are from Legend Press. This one is To Dare by Jemma Wayne, which is a thriller. It's about three very different women, two of whom I think knew each other and have been reunited. It's about the relationships that they're in, and it's about class divisions as well. One of the couples, Veronica, and her wealthy husband George, has just moved into a newly refurbished Victorian terraced house, and then next door is Simone, who is returning to her neglected council flat. She's miserable and trapped, and she struggles to take care of her children under the watch of her controlling husband. They also sent me this, which I think I saw on Kendra's channel, because this is already out or is coming out very soon in the States, and she had read it, really enjoyed it, and said it was perfect, if I'm remembering correctly, for fans of Fatemeh Farheen Mirz's A Place for Us, which is one of my favourite books ever, which makes me very excited for this book here. This is The Beauty of Your Face by Sahar Mustafah, and this is about a school shooting, but that is the jumping off point for talking about lots of other things. So it says it's about Afaf Rahman, who's the daughter of Palestinian immigrants. She's the principal of Nuruddin School for Girls, a Muslim school in the Chicago suburbs. One morning, a shooter radicalized by the online alt-right attacks the school. As Afaf listens to his terrifying progress, we're swept back through her memories, the bigotry she faced as a child, her mother's dreams of returning to Palestine, and the devastating disappearance of her older sister that tore her family apart. I also have the new Sarah Moss novel, which is called Summerwater. It's being published by Picador in September. Sarah and I recorded a podcast when Ghost Wall came out, and she was talking about in that podcast, which I'll link down below, how that story originated as a much bigger book. I think she said there were 5 different elements to it, and it was going to be one huge novel, and then she decided just to focus on the one family that she focused on in Ghost Wall. But I believe that this is another element of that big hole that became Ghost Wall. So this is not related to Ghost Wall, it's just it was birthed kind of at a similar time. That is, if she hasn't completely changed this book since we spoke about it, which is possible, entirely possible. But if you would like to hear her talking about that, I will link the podcast in the description box down below. This book is set over the course of one day in a caravan park in Scotland. The residents are very bored, and all they feel they can do is focus on the lives of everybody else. So there's a lot of peering over the fence, a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, and I think there's going to be a lot of tension in this, exploring similar themes of identity and borders and boundaries like within Ghost Wall, and all building up to something pretty terrible. They also sent me, and by they I mean Picador, and by Picador I mean Emma over at Book Break. Thank you, Emma. She also sent me this, which I read the title. I requested for review, which is called You Will Never Be Forgotten by Mary South, and the cover of this, the final cover, is stunning. This is a proof. The final cover looks like this, and she sold it to me as a collection of stories that feels like Black Mirror. I really enjoyed the collection Children of the New World by Alexander Weinstein, so I'm hoping that this will be similar, exploring technology, etc. Looking forward to that. And speaking of short story collections, I was sent this by Fairlight Books, which is a collection of short stories set around Tottenham, I think. It says, "Welcome to Broadwater Farm, one of the most talked about housing estates in Britain." Yes, Tottenham-born Jac Shreeves-Lee gives voice to the people of Broadwater Farm. With evocative language and raw storytelling, she compassionately portrays their shared sense of community. Speaking of community, I feel like these are all linked. I bought this also because Kendra has been recommending it. July has been, I was going to say is, but we're now in August. July was Disability Pride Month when this book came out. This is Disability, Visibility, first-person stories from the 21st century. This is edited by Alice Wong. It's a series of first-person essays, own voices, talking about the experience of lots of different disabled people. And I have heard brilliant things from Kendra, who I trust immensely. I then bought this, which is the new Rachel Joyce. I have read all of her books now. This is Miss Benson's Beetle, and Rachel and I have also recorded a podcast before, which I'll link in the description box down below. This sounds so lovely. It's about the friendship, unexpected friendship of 2 middle-aged women, or even later. I'm not sure how old they are, but it says, it is 1950. In a devastating moment of clarity, Marjorie Benson abandons her dead-end job and advertises for an assistant to accompany her on an expedition. She is going to travel to the other side of the world to try and find a beetle that may or may not exist. Enid Pretty, in her unlikely pink travel suit, is not the companion that Marjorie had in mind, and yet together they will be drawn into an adventure that will exceed every expectation. They will risk everything, break all the rules, and at the top of the Red Mountain, discover their best selves. Now, I don't know if this is a queer story. It may be about female friendship. Either is fine, but you know, I'm always searching for the queer story, so I will report back and let you know. I had to buy a copy of this book. This is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. Now, Eliza is from Newcastle and I am from Sunderland, and Newcastle and Sunderland, we have beef with each other, mainly to do with football, but Northern writers have got to support Northern writers, and I am super excited about the plot of this. So this is a novel about a woman called Irina. She is a photographer and she enjoys taking photos of men. I think she goes up to men on the streets and says, I want to take a photo of you, and they come back to her apartment, they strip off, she takes photographs of them, and she's offered exhibition space in London, and thinking she has to create something more extraordinary than what she's already created, I think she starts to do very questionable, dangerous, and quite terrible things to the people that she is photographing, and it gets dark very quickly, and I am very much into that. I am imagining Michelle Faber's Under the Skin, but with photography. And I was going to say something which would actually be a spoiler for Under the Skin, so I won't say it. Get excited about that, like. And then I got this in the post, which is an author copy of Outsiders, which is an anthology that I am part of. It is published by Three of Cups Press. It has stories in it by Stephanie Victoire and Kirsty Logan and Julia Armfield. It has a foreword by Irenicen Okajie. This is all about outsiders. People who feel like they're on the outside for whatever reason, or are observing people who happen to be outsiders. People have interpreted the theme in different ways. My short story is called Miss Junifer's Academy for Wild Girls, and it's about girlhood and folklore and disfigurement. And if you would like to buy a copy of this book, that would be delightful. I also bought a copy of The Asoawa Murders by Riku Onda, which is translated from the Japanese by Alison Watts. I saw this on Emma's channel over at Drinking by My Shelf, and I thought it sounded really fun. It is a murder mystery set in Japan in the 1970s and then in the subsequent decades, where 17 people are killed in one night in a villa. The only member of the family who survives is the daughter, who is blind, and then we follow her and a few other characters in order to solve the mystery. I'm hoping it's good representation of blindness and not, you know, othering, or she somehow can see into the future, or etc. You get it. Or is the evil mastermind? I mean, it's just, we can talk about that later. Anyway, I bought it because I thought it sounded really great, but Emma has since read it and said she really hated it. So I will read it and see what I think. But I did really enjoy Pew, and Matthew didn't like it. We all like different things, so fingers crossed that I enjoy that. The final book that I bought, which I'm going to have to speak about quickly because I've got pins and needles in my legs, is The Yield by Tara June Winch. She is an Indigenous author in Australia, and this is a novel about a woman called August who is trying to save her family's home and her ancestors' land. Something is missing, a book her grandfather was writing before he died that might hold the key. Can she find it, and is she ready to face the truth that she will uncover? So those are all of the books that I bought recently or have been sent for review. As I said, I will list them in the description box down below. I've also bought a few other books for Women in Translation Month, but I'm going to do a separate video about that, so I will talk about those then. And I think that's everything. I hope that you're doing okay. Let me know what books you have read recently or bought or got from the library. Are you interested in any of these? Will you be picking them up? Let me know. I hope you're all doing okay, and I will speak to you very soon. Lots of love. Bye.